2 years from today, the Detroit Pistons were in the midst of a historic 28-game losing streak. That season ended up with them firing the highest paid coach in the league in Monty Williams and their draft pick falling all the way to number 5 in the draft lottery. It was looking bleak for Detroit. A new coach, a new GM, a bad team, and their star player Cade Cunningham was in and out with injuries. But bringing ourselves back to the current day, the Detroit Pistons are the number 1 seed, and they're showing us why they might be the next great Eastern Conference team. A lot of the hype for Detroit goes to Cade Cunningham, and deservingly so. He's been a great player and he's their obvious franchise guy. But what if I told you that Detroit has another young, emerging superstar on their roster? That being none other than Jalen Duren, who's 22 years old and has already been a top 5 big in the league this season. Jalen Duren almost serves as a throwback for the bigs that you saw in the early 2000s. He has this certain punch and cadence that you really don't see from your modern day big men. Duren's really one of one as an athlete. He's 6'11" with an extremely elite vertical pop, while also being fluid and flexible enough to do stuff off the dribble with his handle. And this year, Jalen Duren has really progressed as a real off-the-bounce player. He's so quick and explosive that he can really just blow by most bigs at the middle of the floor. And if he ever gets a smaller player on him, on a switch, or on purpose, he can just overpower them all the way to the rim. He has extremely good footwork and cadence, so it's very hard to slow him down when he gets that full head of steam all the way to the rim. And because Jalen Duren's really not known as a great shooter, teams really give him a bit of space at the middle of the floor and force him to put the ball on the floor, but that's enough head of steam for Duren to just get all the way to the rim. He has great footwork and pace, and most bigs really just cannot react in time. And even if you do get in good position, Jalen Duren's one of the best vertical athletes the NBA has ever seen, so he can just finish over the top of you. He's such a unique player and playstyle that he can really bend the rules of modern day defenses. When playing those true pick and rolls, teams are always giving up the middle of the floor for the bigs, because at the end of the day, they're fine if you shoot that mid-range shot, because that's really not an efficient shot for most players in the league. But it becomes a much different story when instead of getting mid-range shots, Jalen Duren's consistently getting all the way to the rim and getting clean layups. That completely changes the equation. And the reason why Jalen Duren suddenly has realistic superstar potential is because that skill is really coming along. You can see his touch has become truly elite now. He's able to hit those short mid-ranges, the turnarounds, the little stop and go shots. These are extremely advanced shots, and these are shots you only see from the top tier big man in the league. And the best part is, you're adding all this foundation and all these pieces to a player who already has extremely good traditional big skills. I talked about Jalen Duren's vertical pop and how he shows off in his off-the-bounce game, but in the pick and roll, when he's the roller, it's even more devastating. Especially when you're playing with a ball handler like Cade Cunningham, who can jail defenders, always freeze the defense. He's gonna get a good roll and a good opportunity to finish that lob every single time. It reminds you of James Harden and Clint Capella, but Jalen Duren's even faster and more explosive. And Duren's offensive skill set doesn't just stop there. He's a very good passer and a low turnover player for a big. He's able to make nice reads out the short roll. And if Jalen Duren actually wants to become a superstar and maximize his potential, he's going to have to continue to expand his passing bag with some more live dribble passes as a true creator. But all in all, Jalen Duren has been a complete monster offensively, and if that mid-range and touch continues to progress in the right direction, we could be looking at a potential superstar. And the craziest thing about watching Jalen Duren this season is that his play doesn't really regress on the other end either. he's been anchoring one of the best defenses in the NBA. Duren's mobility and athleticism that shows up on offense also translate defensively, but I think in the past he had some motor issues. He really wasn't showing full effort. And so far, in a contract season, Jalen Duren has stayed completely true to his word. With him on the floor, the Pistons are a top 3 defense in the entire NBA. He has really good hands. He's actually averaging 1.1 steals, which is 3rd most in the league among bigs. He's able to take up so much space in passing lanes and really disrupt the pick and roll as a drop defender. And if Duren overplays the big or guard in the pick and roll, he has the tools and instincts to recover. And just overall as a team, beyond Duren, this team has been insanely good on defense to start the season. Isaiah Stewart is one of the best and most versatile defenders in the entire league. He's averaging 2 blocks a game in 23 minutes. He allows the Pistons to play small at times when he plays the 5, but they can also upscale and play extremely big lineups with him, Duren, and maybe another wing. And I think this is a key on this entire Pistons team. They're extremely defensive slanted. In a way, they're kind of like a baby OKC in a different way. In a league with deep rotations and so many talented players, having players who can play on both ends makes these lineup choices so much easier. A lot of teams really can't put good defensive lineups without sacrificing their offense or ball handling. But for Detroit, the 2 best players, Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, are elite on both ends of the floor. The Pistons have been both a top 5 defense and a top 5 rebounding team so far this year, and the ability to play so big and the ability to have so many versatile defenders on the roster is really the reason why. And I haven't even mentioned arguably the best perimeter defender in the entire world in Ausar Thompson. He has the mobility and quickness of a small guard defender while also having the stockiness and size of a true wing. Getting by Ausar initially is already nearly impossible with how good his lateral quickness is. If he keeps the ball in front of you, there's really nothing you can do. He has the perfect wingspan, the perfect strength, the perfect body type to absorb any type of contact and contest any shot perfectly. Some of the best and most unstoppable creators in the world, like Shea and Luka, have had their moments of struggle against Ausar. And if they're playing him off the ball, he's a perfect help side defender with his quick vertical leap. And again, I keep saying this about a lot of Pistons players, but they're just one of the most athletic rosters on the league, hands down. The Pistons have 8 players averaging either a steal or a block per game, which is the most in the league. And overall, defensively, there's just so many guys on this roster. You have guys like Paul Reed playing backup center and some 4 minutes who have been really productive in their minutes. And really, Detroit as a whole, the main reason for the come up is because they've been so good on the margins the last 2 years. The amount of good and productive rotation players the Pistons have been able to find on the margins the last few years has been insane. I mean, talk about someone like Dennis Jenkins. I mean, the Pistons are missing Cade and Jaden Ivey. They need some ball handling. And Dennis Jenkins, in 8 career games, is now a productive creator for them off the bench. You have another cheap rotation signing in Javonte Green, who's also stepped in and being a plug-and-play defender for his team. But going back to the main core of the Pistons, everything starts with Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham didn't have the hottest start to his career, but I really think that was because of the situation and spacing that he had around him. In his first 2 seasons in the NBA, Cade Cunningham had the worst rated spacing in the entire NBA. But they started to add some shooting rotation players around him. Malik Beasley last year had one of the best shooting seasons in the NBA. They lose him, but now they add Duncan Robinson. And just adding overall competent offensive players, someone like Tobias Harris, who can play off the ball and put the ball on the floor a bit when needed. That's all been huge for him and his development, but at the end of the day, Cade Cunningham is taking a huge load in this offense. Cade Cunningham is one of the best offensive floor raisers in the NBA today. With him on the floor, they have a 121 offensive rating. And despite the fact that Cade Cunningham is a little inefficient, that really doesn't matter. He's primarily a playmaker who puts a lot of pressure on defenses, and he does exactly that. Him being this aggressive constantly, shooting nearly 22 shots a game, helps put a lot of pressure on defenses and opens up a lot for the rest of the Pistons roster. And that's why Cade's averaging 10 assists per game. He's able to create a lot of high quality looks for this team. He's also just straight up a tough shot maker, so similar to someone like Shea or Brunson, he really doesn't need that much space to navigate in, which helps floor raise these defensive lineups that the Pistons put out. So no matter if he's playing with more defensive slanted players like Ausar Thompson or Isaiah Stewart, he's still able to put competent offensive lineups out there. And I really do think there's still some really encouraging signs from Cade Cunningham as a scorer this year. Despite the inefficient numbers, he's improved mightily as a finisher and just looks overall a lot more athletic and fluid when getting to the rim. Now, what will separate Cade from being an all-NBA guy to a true MVP tier player is the jump shooting. Can he become a truly elite shooter? Can he become a 50% mid-range guy? Can he become a consistent pull-up shooter? If he becomes a truly elite pull-up threat, you're looking at one of the better downhill players in the league, one of the better true playmakers who's also a positive on defense and gives you immense scoring value. But the thing I do love about Cade is that he's not overly reliant on his jump shot. He can find ways to score without it. You can see him use that hook shot, play in the post a little more, just play some bully ball because at the end of the day, he's a 6'7" big guard. And the thing that makes Cade so valuable is that he's one of the 2 or 3 ball handlers in the league that actually adds value on defense. He kind of serves as a second or third wing for the Pistons defensively. He's extremely big and broad, and he's very hard to push off balance. And if he stays in front of you, he gives you a good contest with the additional length and size he brings. Cade's been the best defensive point guard playmaker in the league this season, only behind Shea and Derek White. Similar to both those players, he actually offers some good resistance on the backline in help side situations and is actually one of the best rim protecting guards in the entire league. Having this type of player changes everything for your future outlook, and between him and Jalen Duren, you have one of the best young duos in the entire league. But the thing I do love about the Pistons' future is that they're more than just Cade and Jalen Duren. They have a great farm of young players coming right behind them. I mentioned how good Ausar has been defensively, but he's also made some strides offensively. He basically serves as a giant connector offensively, where he either driving kicks or gets all the way to the rim. His shooting definitely hurts some of his spacing value, but I love the Pistons to use Ausar more at the dunker spot, where he can serve as a vertical spacer. Still, the Pistons are a better offense with Ausar Thompson on the floor, and that's because just having a giant athlete who makes good decisions will always be a positive for your team, even if he's a bad shooter. Ron Holland's a bit more behind offensively. He really doesn't have the same processing and IQ that Ausar possesses. But in the open court, he's a monster, and defensively, he brings the same type of versatility. It'll be extremely interesting to see how Detroit develops them the next 2 or 3 years in the rotation. But the nice thing about the Pistons is that they have a nice balance of young and experienced players, which they can put in different spots. When Caris LeVert was healthy, he was giving them some nice scoring and playmaking boosts off the bench, but now you're going to have Jaden Ivey coming back who can take that same role. Jaden Ivey is a really interesting player to get a read on. The Pistons have actually been better without him the last 2 years, but the talent's undeniable. I think in his last contract year, the Pistons need to find a way to incorporate him without affecting much of what's going on right now. You probably want to keep him off the bench at least early on, but the upside with Ivey is very clear. He's an elite downhill force who can actually shoot, which is really rare in this league. He shot 40% on 5 3-point attempts last season. Really what holds Ivey back are the margin plays. He's not really a good playmaker, averaging 4 assists to 3 turnovers, really sloppy on those drives. And then defensively, he really struggles, which makes it hard for him to play heavy minutes on this Pistons team. But I still think when he returns, he's going to be a net positive for this Pistons team. He's going to give them another look offensively. But more importantly, it gives the Pistons versatility and gives them the ability to run offensive slant lineups, especially in the playoffs. You saw with Cade, they needed another player to put pressure on the rim, and Jaden Ivey can serve as that. And if it doesn't end up being him, I definitely think the Pistons need to find a true secondary ball handler sometime this season. Maybe it ends up being a pure scorer in Lauri Markkanen. Maybe it ends up being someone like Zach LaVine or Malik Monk. Maybe it ends up being Jaden Ivey. I just think in this Eastern Conference, with 2 of the top dogs out in Halliburton and Jason Tatum, you should try and make a run this year. You don't want to rush it and be over aggressive and give up too many future picks, but at the same time, you have the contracts, you have the space. Go ahead and try to make something work at the deadline. Because Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren are one of the best duos in the league, supported by a truly elite defense. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you subscribed and liked, comment any thoughts or questions. If you're still listening, I appreciate it. Thank you.